He was the man who'd run the operation. Whether the ruse the author had described at the chapter's conclusion was bogus, he didn't know. He suspected it was, against a flickering hope that it wasn't. He intended to find out. John Peterson, bald, bespectacled, lackluster, appeared from his photo to have been in his late 40s in 1956. He'd be pushing 70 today, and, if still living, was probably retired. Madison, New Jersey was a little over a 4-hour drive away. Before requesting John Peterson's telephone number in New Jersey, of which there must be a slew, he'd try Madison High School, where Peterson had been an American history teacher. Perhaps a talkative school clerk would give him all the information required for Alistair to locate him in Madison, and he would take a little motor trip to the Rose City to introduce himself to John Peterson. He was indeed fortunate to be referred to a loquacious clerk who had handled student registration for the school since its founding in 1920. 42 years I've been here, she said proudly, and to Alistair's questions replied, "Oh, Mr. Peterson's been gone from Madison for a long time. He and his wife divorced. No, I don't know where he relocated, or even if he continued teaching. My guess is that he took off to travel around Europe. He was a big one for Europe." Europe, Alistair mused. Any special country? He liked France. Would she know if Mr. Peterson was still alive? Alistair asked. "We haven't heard of his death, and I believe we would have," the registrar said. What about his ex-wife? Maybe he could locate Mr. Peterson through her. A snort. That hussy disappeared with her paramour right after she took Mr. Peterson for everything he had, poor man. Alistair thanked her, hung up, and then asked the long-distance operator for the number of the book's publisher in Trenton, New Jersey. No such listing was available. The publishing house had probably gone defunct years ago. Alistair was not disheartened, for he was still in touch with an organization that could locate the most elusive persons of interest. He'd place a call to a buddy at the CIA with whom he'd served in the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, and put him on to John Peterson's tracks. Meanwhile, he'd telephone the surviving members of Dragonfly to ask them to find and read the last chapter of The Greatest Ruses of World War II. Surprisingly, he found them all at their places of work on this late Friday afternoon. They were still young and active at 42, and though scattered all over the country, had remained in his life and one another's since their first reunion in New York City on the 23rd of September in 1945. Forever bound by ties that transcended blood, lifelong friendships, and career attachments. Initially, it had been their doing, the remaining in touch, unusual in a business where war-weary operatives were only too glad to shake themselves free of their case officers as soon as their missions were over. At first, he had resisted continuing the association. The idea of it was so foreign to him. But the team had held fast, and after a while he had responded with pleasure to their phone calls, visits, and invitations to weddings, christenings, holidays, and milestone celebrations. The 4 who had returned, along with their spouses and children, had become the closest to family he'd ever had. He telephoned Labrador first. He had never stopped thinking of the members of Dragonfly by their OSS field names, just as they had never dropped his military rank when addressing him. It was always Major, never Alistair. Labrador met his summary of the last chapter of John Peterson's book with a shocked silence that lasted a long 5 seconds. Alistair waited as his listener gnawed at the possibility that there might be a grain of truth to the author's preposterous claim, but then protested, "I don't believe it. The others all say they watched the execution from their cell windows. Peterson just made up that cock-and-bull ending to fit his ruse scheme." "I'm inclined to think the same," Alistair said. "But I want you kids to read it for yourselves and get back to me with your